Um, the challenge is having people understand that you need people to get it done. Like if you want it to be that sole trader or you want to be the lone wolf, so to speak, then that's fine. And some people are built for it. But when you're in an organization, it actually just doesn't work. And you need to actually understand that the intangibles provide greater value, and ultimately, um, they'll create the dollar value for you as well.
Peter Lombardo, his top performers burned out and they disengaged. If that sounds like you, if you are the kind of person that needs this sort of help, this is the most important podcast episode that you may ever listen to, because when Peter went through this crisis, it sparked a transformation which shifted him from command and control into servant leadership, which empowers high performing teams. So if you're someone that says, I wish my team worked better, I wish my culture was better, and you are intrigued by some of Peter's ideas, such as leadership being about service, and if you're ready to finally stop the exhausting mode of being a lone wolf leader, you're ready to build rapport, get some influence, and be a real life leader, Mr. Peter Lombardo is here to help. So, Mr. Peter, glad to see you, glad to be speaking with you.
Thanks for having me, Rob. I'm glad to be here.
Happy to have you. And so this is the best-selling author podcast, and you are co-author with Pat Mesiti in the book, The Turning Point, which we can find at turningpointbook.com/au. But as far as what you're all about and how you can help us, what do you think makes you unique? What makes you stand out?
Yeah, I think exactly like you said in the intro there, Robert, it's about making sure that you understand as a leader, it's not actually about you at all. And it never should be. And I think the current trend is that leadership is all about the leader and making sure they get to stand on that pedestal, and grab all the glory. The reality is nobody gets to do it alone. And the sooner leaders realize, and like you said, I went on that journey to realize that leaders need to actually understand that it's the people that do the journey with them. And your job is to actually stand there and make sure that they're empowered to have everything they need and all the tools they need for success. And, for me, that's what I do. I teach people to understand, to look at what they've got, understand that you have complementary skills around you, and you actually can't do it all alone. And, that word that you use there is really big for me, that burnout word around whether it's your team or yourself. You need to put people first. And, businesses talk about customer first theology, if you like. But, my strong belief is that you'll get all the quality you want. You'll get the outcomes that you want from a business if you actually understand that the people that you have around you will help you get there. But you actually need to be there to serve them and make sure that they, first of all, want to turn up to work and they understand why they're important to the business and feel valued and empowered to succeed.
Very nice. Well, it sounds like a better way of going about it, but I imagine that it maybe takes some retraining, reframing. It requires maybe building in a little bit of patience and reducing the ego. There's perhaps some reconfiguring needed to be done. And so, what was that switch like for you? How did you go from being the mean, command and control, lone wolf leader into this maybe more enlightened mindset?
For me, it was twofold. It was being on the receiving end of some lone wolf leadership that gave me a genuine sense of I actually don't want to be here anymore in a workplace, but also just the journey of watching good quality people continue to lead businesses and just not want to hang around. Even though they had the skills, there was opportunity presented for them and trying to figure out what it was. I parked the ego, parked the title and went and actually spent time, built a bit of a platform around something that in a couple of businesses we've run through, which is called a day in the life of. So actually spending time in what it is that, people go through every day. Your job as a leader isn't to be able to do everything, but it is to be able to understand and be empathetic towards what your team's going through. Whether that's a team of one or whether that's a team of hundreds, the reality is, nobody expects you to be able to do everything, but you've got to have an understanding of what it takes to get the job done that you're asking people to do. And that transition for me went from, I had some really, really disengaged, high turnover workforces throughout my career and turning those into, legacy items where I may not be in a business anymore, but without it being an ego statement, people still talk about the impact that I've had as a person on them. And that's about care. And it's not about blurring the lines between personal life and work life. It's about being that empathetic person that understands people go through things um, and making sure that you've given them every opportunity to do that. For me, it was really being on the receiving end of that poor leadership, lone wolf, really authoritarian finger pointing, standing the ivory tower and point down at the people to get the job done. And that's all I'd seen. I tried it and it wasn't a fit for me. Didn't work. Teams didn't respond. Goals weren't achieved. And then went to what I enjoy doing now and what I've found great success in with people and with teams is that if you engage with them, if you empower them, if you bring them on the journey rather than dragging people kicking and screaming, whether they want to be there or not, success comes. And people feel like they're a part of something bigger than just themselves as well. And it goes all the way through an organization. It's not just about those that sit around the big boardroom table or the leadership conversations. It's around, the entire organization feeling connected to a purpose because they feel like they're a part of it, not just there to do and, to have the life dragged out of them.
Right. So everyone's important, make them feel important, make sure that they're understood. And I've always been impressed when there's like someone in the org chart that like actually spends time, right? And you hear about how like leadership isn't just in the workplace, right? There's leadership at home. And I know that I have a little 5-year-old boy and he's on a soccer
Mhm.
team. And when the coach made sure that each of the kids kind of got little bits of attention, and he did the little bits of one-on-one time on each kid. I was like, such a simple thing, but I was just really impressed
Yeah.
by just like, being that number one, that organized, but also caring that much to like give each kid like individual time. And when you see that happening in a workplace, it's like, hey, it sounds simple enough, but so many leaders just don't take the time to just have that one-on-one connection. So is that an
Yeah.
important part of what you do, or is that difficult to sometimes just like find the time to achieve this understanding, to connect with each person individually?
Um, it's important. It really is. And the second part is really true as well. It's about where you value, like where you place your value is where you're going to put your time. So, I place a high value on making sure that I'm connecting with my team, understanding that they're a part of making this thing happen. So for me, it's a deliberate diary purpose where I set it up where I can actually do it. And that soccer team analogy for me is really important to, not just be able to walk through a facility and say, hi mate, how you going? But, whether you've got that team, regardless of the size of the team, something as little as, especially when you're new, taking the time to actually learn everyone's name and be able to say good morning, hi, how you going by name, regardless of the workplace, regardless of the industry, is actually a really important thing. And it just, that builds that instant connection that, and if we talk from some of my experience comes out of blue collar environments and heavy manufacturing and industry, when someone that doesn't quite wear the same uniform as them, but takes the time to walk into that environment and actually, and they know their name, and they get a sense that it's not just because they're in trouble or something bad's happening, but there's a genuineness or authenticity to it. It's important, but yeah, it takes time, and there's a struggle. Like there's definitely a power struggle between where you put your time and how you get done what you're there to do, as well as making sure the team's good as well.
And I want to visit that for sure, like that the power struggle. But first, I wanted to digest what you said. Like it's just good life advice in general, isn't it? To know people's name, know who people are, be social, power through the awkwardness. But then it's easy to come up with excuses, right? There's like the social anxiety, like, oh well, I'm talking to strangers. My mommy and daddy told me I shouldn't talk to strangers, but it's important if you're trying to lead this organization. And so I imagine that sometimes there's the pushback, right? Because some of these things that you're talking about are kind of like intangibles and maybe delayed gratification, right? Like if you talk and you know the first name of all these people who like, work on the floor or whoever, it's hard to see like the exact dollar value. And there's always this quest of like optimizing and being efficient. So do you ever hear that objection of someone like saying like, well, I only want to do the money making task, right? I only want to do what moves the needle, but the socializing is important. So what do you say if someone is maybe coming up with excuses for not displaying these leadership qualities?
Yeah, I think it is really important, but there's definitely that power struggle and that challenge, right? In terms of, you know, that intangible piece and having people get that understanding of what it actually is. Um, the challenge is having people understand that you need people to get it done. Like if you want it to be that sole trader or you want to be the lone wolf, so to speak, then that's fine. And some people are built for it. But when you're in an organization, it actually just doesn't work. And you need to actually understand that the intangibles provide greater value, and ultimately, um, they'll create the dollar value for you as well. But yeah, it's definitely a challenge to talk through with people around how do you actually see value in the intangibles. As an example for me, I've been told that I spend too much time with factory workers, or I spend too much time in a factory because it's not my job. You've got a job to manage and to lead. But for me, that's what management and leadership looks like. It's engaging with the team and, making sure that they're good to do what they need to do. And yeah, I think I mentioned it earlier. It's about making sure people have got the tools to succeed. And those intangibles, for me, I've seen the good and the bad of it. They have massive cost implications to a business. That high turnover piece and that disengaged workforce starts to create productivity, efficiency issues, customer service issues, quality issues. And it has a massive flow-on effect. And the opposite's exactly true as well. But yeah, there's a struggle, and it's something that people have to come to terms with. And not everyone can. Like if people are hardwired just to chase dollars, and that's their primary goal and focus for a business or an opportunity, then that intangible piece that takes a little bit longer. I will tell you that this style of leadership builds resilience and patience
Okay.
to see the financial outcomes. And you have to be comfortable. Yeah, I sometimes say you got to be uncomfortable or comfortable in the uncomfortable, and embrace it. But yeah, it takes time, and it really needs a resilient leader to do that. But you can build it. If you're teachable and have a willingness to take it on board and give it a shot, then it works.
Very nice. It's something to aspire to, right? Great values because you can't do it alone. And as someone who does what you do, I'm sure that you've gone through many twists and turns, right? You've gone through quite a bit of personal transformation. So in this journey that you've been on, empowering others, has anything like really surprised you, really shocked you, woken you up?
Yeah, it really has. Something recently in my career that shocked me is um, doing what I do and what I enjoy doing about, building teams and empowering people across different levels in an organization. And when you can't see it, you can't feel it. Um, it's deflating. But then to have that moment where you still don't feel it, you don't see it, you don't see that it's having an impact, and what's the point? And you sit on that little merry-go-round and go, no, this is who we are, this is what we do, but don't see the impact of it initially. But then to get that comment from, someone on the floor, or a thank you from someone in a business, even a customer, to say that, the staff here are great. Like, we know you're going through some struggles. It makes it all worth it. But not being able to see it, and I think your point around the intangibles, um, it surprises me when the intangible becomes tangible. And I think that's important too, that it doesn't just become the mundane, even if it is an everyday occurrence, like I do what I do every day. But as long as it doesn't become just taken for granted, I think and that surprises me still. And, I get great joy out of those surprises when you see that it's working, even when you don't feel like it is.
I like it. So find the positive and express gratitude and live for those little small moments where you for sure won't see positives every day. You won't get thanked every day, but it will happen sometimes if you apply these good habits. And since we're on a podcast and we love stories, we love drama. And it almost sounds like a job interview to say, like, oh, well, what's your weakness? So where have you failed? But where have you failed? Like, where have the struggles been in your journey?
Yeah, I think I've missed the mark more than once. And I've got no doubt I'll put my hand up and say I'm sure it'll happen again. But the struggles have been finding that balance between business objectives and that personal attachment, and becoming and blurring the lines between what's a workplace, how do you engage with a person, and you get burnt from it, like, because you've invested too heavily and you may have overstepped a line. And the challenge is to know where to draw the line about where the appropriateness is. And where you can engage and what level of help you can do. And it's a genuine struggle to know how to help and where to invest your time. And that's probably been the biggest thing for me that has led to, being close to burnout, because you're investing so heavily. And that's the struggle, because it takes its own, when you invest that heavily in people around you, it definitely takes its toll on you mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. It takes a massive toll on you to do it. And, the struggle is making sure that there is something that where you've got that relief as well. So, you're outputting all the time. And that's the struggle, is when you're draining your own tank all the time to help or to invest into others, making sure that you've got that opportunity to refill your own tank as well.
And how do you refill your own tank?
Trying to disconnect is always an interesting one. With the ability to have everything at your fingertips, whether it's in an app, on a phone, or on a laptop or a tablet, actually just switching off. So for me, whether it's motorsport events, cycling, grabbing my camera and going for a drive, it's something really, really different from the industrial spaces that I sit in every day. And for me, I love finding green spaces, regardless of whether it's a drive or whether it's on a bike or hanging out with family and friends. It's about just being able to have my own little inner circle around me and connect and make sure that there's that connection outside of just the workplace, and it's not a 24/7 investment of things going out. So,
Of course. Well, it sounds like
and the odd coffee doesn't hurt.
there's some amount of like self-awareness you're saying here, right? Of like,
There really has to be.
have
Yeah,
a life
that's a
outside
great.
of the workplace, but also know like what those boundaries are and how hard you're working on a person, but also letting them have their own freedom and making their own mistakes. And is it past the point of no return? Is it time to cut the person loose or try someone else in there? It's a lot to navigate, right? I imagine it's very
Yeah,
stressful.
definitely. Yeah,
Well,
yeah, it really is, and it can be. You've got to find that balance and know when. It's not just about giving up on someone or something. It's about knowing where there's actually, whether, and this is about that toll it takes on you, and it's about that return on investment. I talk about teachability and a willingness of the person on the other side of the table. If they haven't got it, then there's really little value in you investing in them. If there's a blockage there, you can work on it. But when someone's got quite a solid wall up and there's a real reluctance to go, well, this is just how it is and this is who I am, then, you're actually better off putting your time, effort, and energy into other areas and other people.
oh yeah, and we've all had situations like that or known people like that, right? Where like maybe there's potential
Sure.
and they're incrementing 2%, 3%, they're getting there versus if there's no progress and they have a bad attitude, they don't even want to work on something. There's definitely a difference between those two, right? Of there's progress versus stubbornness. And so there's so much to be said and done about human nature, right? And shifting from control to connection. But we only have a few minutes left in our conversation, and I want to make sure that we talk about what's important to you, Mr. Peter Lombardo. So in our conversation we're having, is there a missing hidden question that I should be asking you? I just don't know what to ask you.
That in itself is a great question. I'd say that the question is, for me, it's about, and I get this a little bit, is the why I chose to do it this way. And yeah, we've touched on the struggles, but why I've built my leadership style like this. And that's the question that I enjoy answering and I love answering. And we'll just assume that you've asked it and I'll answer it for you. That, the why for me, and I've been through the struggle of having my managers tell me that you're too soft or you're too engaged with the workforce or you spend too much time with the team. But for me, having that is a compliment to me. As challenging as it is to have your manager turn around and go, softness doesn't work in the industry or in the business that you're in or whatever it might be, that I see a real genuine strength in being able to be that empathetic, transparent and authentic leader with the people around me. And I found that my teams have been strong and resilient in it as well, knowing that they've got someone that has their back every day of the week as well. And that extends outside the workforce as well for me. But yeah, that's the biggest question that, I really like answering, is the why I chose that path. And yeah, we went through the stories of being on the receiving end of that really authoritarian finger pointing style leadership. But for me, it's about having people know that I do it because it's worked for me. It's definitely not the easiest path from a leadership perspective. Like, you are fully invested across all your senses, rather than just being able to sit or stand behind a desk and finger point it and bark out orders. But for me, that's the question, and that's the why that I do it, because it builds people as well as businesses. It's not just about me.
Yeah, and it's important to have that why, and that's very inspiring that you said you didn't like the way that you were treated, and there's that saying, hurt people, hurt people, hurt people. So there's a ripple effect that gets passed down the
Yeah.
food chain no matter what you do. So it's up to you. Do you say,
Yeah.
well, I don't like the way that I was treated, I'll just pass that along to the next person, versus I can break the cycle and flip it and say, I didn't like the way I was treated. I wouldn't like to treat someone else that way. I'll use that as my inspiration to learn a better way, which is what you've
Yeah.
discovered, which is what you then passed down to others. And so you've had that positive ripple effect instead of the negative one. And so, as far as someone finding out about some next steps here, right? My understanding is your website is patellisolutions.com. And so, can you tell us about, if someone is interested and intrigued by your new way of doing things, of building these engaged teams, how does someone know if they're a fit for you? And if they are, what's the next step?
Yeah. So on the website, there's a couple of little areas there that talk about what we do or what I've done and what I can help you with. But most importantly, right now, as you go through the book and as you listen to the podcast, it's important there's a contact us form on there. Click the button for more info, send us a question, send us a note. Let's book a time to chat. Let's have 10, 15 minutes on a call, on a video, and let's see, because I think what you said is really important, that even if it is for everyone, we may not be the right fit, and I'm okay with that. But let's have a chat, let's talk about it, and let's see what we can do. But yeah, there's definitely more information about my journey, what I've done, and some of the stuff that Patelli Solutions with me will have upcoming, and whether that's a course, a webinar, or some resources for, whether you're an aspiring leader or whether you are a long-term leader looking for that next thing for you that's actually going to help you engage with your teams and build a better business.
Very good. And we should strive to build that better business. There is a better way of doing it. And so, if someone says, okay, this guy, Peter Lombardo, he can really help me, is it limited geographically? And what problem perhaps should someone have to talk to you about?
No, geographically, I think, for where we're at and this day and age, technology definitely has reduced the impact of borders, which is great. So, more than happy to go beyond my own little borders and have that conversation with people. But in terms of the problem is, it's either you're actually just stuck as a leader. So there's two elements to what I do, and it's looking at people who have been where I've been, which is on the receiving end of poor leadership, and looking at what it would take for them to be a great leader, as they aspire to grow and develop into it. And, if that's your problem statement, then, we can definitely chat about that. But if you're also a seasoned leader as well, looking for, and you don't really understand it, a part of what we can do is we can look at the total package and look at the business and the people that are in it and some of your styles, and understand that, not everyone's the fundamental of what I talk about and what I've had success with around servant-hearted leadership, isn't personality based. So regardless of who you are and what you are, you can still do it, and you can still connect with your team and with people and have great success in it. So, if you've got high turnover in your workforce and you don't understand why, if you feel like people are disconnected from you, you walk into a room or you walk into a meeting and the atmosphere changes, definitely not for the good. Let's chat.
All right. And so, if you're having those sorts of problems, if you say there's that disconnect, if there's just the toxic workplace culture, then it's time to get more brain power on the problem. And we've all been there, right? We've all been stumped by a homework problem, by a puzzle, or we say, I can't get this tab or this screw or this I'm building this cabinet, can't get it to work. And next thing you know, you just
Yeah.
ask someone for 10 seconds of advice, because they look at it from fresh eyes, from different perspective, they can help you out. And that is a situation that you might find yourself in with your workplace, with the team that you're leading. If you just feel like this turnover is high or they're not engaged, you need to listen to Mr. Peter Lombardo. who is a co-author, as we said, in the book The Turning Point with Pat Mesiti. You can find that at theturningpointbook.com/AU. And you can find Peter Lombardo's chapter in The Turning Point called It's Not About You. Lead beyond yourself for a better team and better results. And if you're intrigued with what we started our conversation with about how leadership is instead about giving your power away and empowering others, and it's not about you, then you need to check out that chapter. And where we also want you to go is Patelli Solutions.com. That's PETELLE Solutions.com. And if you're ready to build a legacy, not just a title, if you want to build these engaged teams and step into the leadership shift that changes everything, then check out PatelliSolutions.com. They talk about leadership development. They talk about business consulting, and Mr. Peter Lombardo can help you as a leader or an aspiring leader master this concept we've been discussing, which is servant leadership. He can help you build high-performing teams and drive success. So PatelliSolutions.com has this coaching, these courses, and these webinars to help you get there with servant leadership. And as we're heading to PatelliSolutions.com, Mr. Peter Lombardo, it's time for the scary part of the podcast, where I try to stump you, I try to put you on the spot by asking about a fun quote or lesson that has served you. So what do you have for us as far as a fun quote or lesson?
Well, it does stump me a little bit, but I think it's really easy for me to give you one, and it's the title of my chapter in the book. It's not about you. That's it. Like it's scary to think it's not about you. You've worked really hard to get to that position in an organization or in life, and you've done it. You've put the work and the effort in, but all the way up that chain, it's actually not about you. It's about the people that have gone before you. It's also about the people that have helped you get there. So the sooner more and more leaders realize that, the better the workplace will be.
Nice. Well, it's time to wake up to that, right? The sooner you come to that conclusion, the better it will be for everybody. So check out The Turning Point with Peter Lombardo on Amazon and PatelliSolutions.com. We'll see you there. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid. Ask for help and get your team the improvements that they need. Mr. Peter Lombardo, it's been wonderful speaking with you.
Thanks, Robert. I've enjoyed it. It's been great.